Hey, Erica.
Hi.
I'm so glad that you could be a part of this today. I just want to first start off talking about who you are, how we know each other, and just give a little background on that, because I just love our story and how we became friends. But funnily enough, we became friends outside of Gwinnett County, not even through Gwinnett County. And so I don't really know your story much. I don't know your story inside of Gwinnett County and all of the things that you love about it, the place that it's like came to be, and how it shaped you, how your childhood shaped you, and things like that. So I want to ask, starting off, just how your parents even came to Gwinnett County, or if you were born here, how that goes.
I was not born in Gwinnett County. I was born in Kennesaw, Georgia. But when I was around 5 years old, my parents moved here. My mom's an accountant, so she can work anywhere willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But my dad has actually been working for Home Depot for about 27 years now. And he started assistant managing the store on 124 Scenic Highway. And so we moved over here. We moved into a neighborhood called Flowers Crossing,
Nice.
which I like to call Flo Crow.
Yes.
It's a huge neighborhood. It's ginormous. I don't even want to say it wrong, but I think it's like 1,500 homes or something like that.
Oh, there's got to be some awesome Halloween stories with that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you take full pillowcases to go get candy.
Yeah, at least three, right?
But over your shoulder. But we moved here when I was about 5, so I started elementary school here in Gwinnett County. I went to Killian Hill Christian School for 3 years, and then I transferred over to Craig Elementary. In the Brookwood district.
Yeah.
And so went up from there. I went to Cruz Middle School, went to Brookwood High School. I graduated from there in 2011.
Yeah.
But I love Gwinnett County. I'm
Yeah.
always proud to represent Gwinnett County. It's huge. I feel like I'm cutting to the chase here, but some memorable moments for me in Gwinnett County. I mean, our football team won state my senior year. I did nothing to help that at all.
You did everything. You were the #1 cheerleader, right?
Nope. I really didn't do much to help that at all, but that was like a fun thing, was to be able to go to all the games.
Yeah.
I was super involved in theater.
Yeah.
I've done so many different things. I feel like
Yeah.
we can get into that later, but I do love our story of how we met. So correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to jump in.
Oh, I will.
We were both working at a camp in Dahlonega called Camp Glisten, Camp and Retreat Center. We
Gotta
were.
get that right.
It was our first. Yes. It was our first summer working there, and we both, I think, worked there for 4 summers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
And so it was our first summer working, and we were doing like the crew activities. We were crew members, and so we were like lifeguarding, belaying.
Yeah.
We're doing the dirty work. We were
All
having
the dishes.
Yes, literally all of the dishes.
Grime, just getting to it.
And it was like our first few days in, and we were literally carrying a trash can.
You're right. Oh my gosh, that was how we met. That's how we started talking.
So we're like, will you help me carry this disgusting trash can? And then from there, a beautiful friendship was born. So
That's right. From disgustingness comes life.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah.
I like, not that this has anything to do with Gwinnett, but I
Yeah.
always just remembered there was such an interesting group of people that we had started with there, but you were always the coolest to me, and I was like, I have to be your friend.
No.
So,
I mean, I try. What can I say?
but
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, I love our story too. I think it's awesome how, like, over the years we've maintained, even though we went to different colleges, and we still kept up with each other, and we still listen to each other's stories, and like we've like distance has like brought us apart, but then also back together, because now being in Atlanta together, we're living life and having fun, and so that's awesome. But back to your story, and enough about mine. I wanted to ask, what is probably one of your most favorite childhood moments in, just with you and your sisters and brother and all that fun
I guess
stuff?
that is about me
Yeah.
and Gwinnett County. I have an older sister. She's 26, and I have a younger brother and sister. They're boy-girl twins, and they are 21 currently, and we all graduated from Brookwood. But yes, gosh, I cherish them so much. I feel like everyone's like, oh, me and my siblings are really close. I'm like, no, me and my siblings are beyond close. I talk to them every single day.
Yeah.
We have a group text called From Womb to Tomb, From Life to Death. I love them so much. But I think, it would probably be making some plays in our front yard, performing them for
I
my
love that.
parents.
Yeah.
This is such a funny thing. It's funny for anyone who's over the age of 40, I'm sure, even funnier for them. But for my dad's 40th birthday, I have this super awesome memory of us, myself and my siblings, writing this play for my dad called The Constipation Pals.
Of course.
Performing it for him. And that was just like what we did. And
Yeah.
you know, we were like, not that my parents kept us out, please don't anyone report them. They'd be like, go play outside, go play outside. And so it was always fun to watch us like take games like Capture the Flag, but make it our own. And we made this game called Spies. And we're always doing things that were just super creative and super outside of the box. And you would go to school and be like, have y'all heard of the game Spies? And everyone was literally like, no. And I'm like, that's because I made it up.
So only I know it.
But I felt like I was super lucky as well because growing up, I lived in a cul-de-sac, and I think literally 5 of my neighbors just like on my street alone were my age. And so I was super lucky to have grown up in a town that like literally surrounding me was just all people my age, all people I graduated with, and I like saw them from 5 years old to literally the day I left for college.
Yeah.
And so I loved that.
Yeah.
I think some other highlights, some big highlights, was honestly doing theater at Brookwood High School. It was just such...
Yeah. How did that like shape you, transform you as a person at all?
I know that, like, I know it's such a weird thing. High school theater changed me, but it really did. It taught me how to be very open to the idea of like learning about other people.
Ooh,
Obviously, we were not method actors at the mere age of 16 years old, but we did get the opportunity to like create characters. And my teacher, Miss Lindahl and Mr. Lindahl were actually super awesome at sitting us down and making us write our characters' backstories and really try to understand people. And I think that helped me for a long time, just to be able to think that like, oh my gosh, anybody could have a backstory. Anybody has places where they've come from, they have a story, and even though we may not project that out loud to an audience or project that to people that were around, everybody has something to say kind of underneath it all.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is really cool.
That's really awesome.
Brookwood is actually just a great high school. I think a lot of people like look back at high school and they're like, I hated my high school. And I was like, wait, I really didn't. Like, of course there's drama and there's weird things, but I really didn't.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it all the way around.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I know something that you're very passionate about is working with special needs populations. So did your childhood, did any of like being at Brookwood, is that where that started? Did it start from middle school? Like, how did that passion come to be something that you enjoyed? Because that's something that we know, that I know, that you just was very prevalent to me when I met you, that you really loved bringing in people of special needs and making sure that they felt loved and felt community. So
It actually did. It started at Cruz Middle School. So I've been like around people who have different abilities my whole life, and so it like wasn't really like a shock to me. But when I was in 6th grade, my lunch table was like a assigned table. You didn't have assigned seats, but you had an assigned table, and it was sitting directly next to the special needs classes lunch table. And so I sat at this seat every day, and every day I would get patted on the back by this little girl. Her name is Mary Beth. And she would just tap me, and just like every day we would talk and we would talk and we would talk. And she's amazing. She actually obviously grew up here, went to Brookwood High School.
Yeah.
We keep in touch. I'm taking her to the Taylor Swift concert in August. It's our 2nd time together. But it just super started shaping me and like what my passions were and helped me align that, because I mean technically I'm in middle school. I'm already worried about like myself and how I look and all these things that are changing, but I got to sit next to this table and I got to literally talk to this girl every day. And then in 7th grade, crazily enough, my lunch table sat next to their table. And so it went on. And so I think the way, I'm actually very positive, the way that when you are in a special needs classroom, you can graduate and stay in school till you're 21. So she stayed in school longer than I did. But even getting to go into high school, I got to be around her again. I was a peer leader, so I got to go into those classrooms, and I was best buddies and all of those things. And so I was really lucky enough to keep up with her for all those years. And crazily enough, when I started working at Camp Glisten, I didn't even know she was a participant there.
No way.
Yes, I got to hang out with her at Camp Glisten, and I got to really know her parents. She lives down the street from me, and so I hang out with her at least once every other month, keep up with her, talk to her on the phone.
I love that.
I know, and it really did I guess didn't know it at the time, but it really did shape like my passions. It was like whether I wanted it to or not, she was there, which sounds like I didn't want her there, but like it gave me patience, like at a really young age, to deal with someone who's literally going to be sitting behind me every day at lunch. And it taught me how to like even start at a very young age, like directing her, like you got to turn around, you got to eat your lunch, or like learn how to like deal with different types of people.
Yeah.
And so amongst all the weird middle school
dramas.
yeah. But I like loved it, and I would have it no other way. Looking back now.
No, that's really cool. Yeah, and so because of that, I assume you see the world from a different lens because you can see the world through their eyes because you've walked with them through their experiences and things of that nature. So is there things about Gwinnett County that you like would love, spaces, or not even Gwinnett County, but even just like the world in general? Like, do you see how spaces need to be changed to include the special needs population more?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Do you have time and a list? I could start writing it up.
Yeah, we've got 3 hours, so if you want
Every pool needs to be 0 entry. All of these things. I mean, I definitely think that there's so many opportunities that have been missed out on that we could definitely do better at inclusion. My aunt and my uncle both have cerebral palsy, and I think about how many times they are like kept out of something just because merely they have a different time walking than I do. And so even like handicap accessible ramps into places, I think legally now most places are required to do things like that. But even just like thinking about spaces and like retail stores, about how you align things, and can wheelchairs get through, and can anyone get through or walk through your store. I think even having that as a better perspective to be able to just include people in day-to-day life. Very sillily, that's not a word, very crazily. I mean, people, I don't even think about it when they go into a bathroom and you use a handicap stall. Obviously, if you have to go to the bathroom, you should go. But like when you're going in there, like what would you do if someone came in and needed to use that, but it was taken?
Right.
Not that anyone shouldn't use the bathroom. Go, be free. But like,
but be mindful.
Yeah, just be mindful and think about those things. It's something that you really don't have to think about till you are in it or have had to take someone to the restroom who needs that stall.
Yeah.
And why they exist and things like that. It's things that like happen in day to day. This is like kind of a rant.
No, go for it. Yeah, I love those. That's why we're here.
My older sister actually just moved to Minnesota, but we like kind of went on this little brigade for a little bit about people parking in handicap spots that didn't have handicap tags.
Interesting. Okay.
And it wasn't like we weren't like marching in the streets by any means, but it was like one of those things that like I never like wanted to be like, hey, do you know what you're doing? But I watched my older sister do it once, and like she said it in a way that wasn't demeaning, and it wasn't hurtful, and it wasn't like aggressive. She was just like, hey, did you know that you parked in a handicap accessible spot only?
Yeah.
And it was like asking them instead of forcing blame or pushing judgment.
Right.
It was merely just like, hey, did you know?
Yeah.
And the person handled it so well. She was like, oh my gosh, I was running in to grab something and I didn't even realize I'm going to go move my car right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So just even like simple things like that, or like, when there are handicap accessible spots, a lot of times there's like white, like rectangles with lines through them. Those are so vans or cars or things like that have ramps so people can get out of their car. And so when people park there and they're like, oh, they just think it's a spot that they forgot to make or something.
Yeah.
If someone who had a handicap spot pulled in there and there was something there, they may not even be able to get out of their car.
Oh my gosh.
I know, crazy, right?
No, definitely.
So things like that, everybody has like a little thing that like needs attention. Like I'm sure there's a lot of like people that need things, but these are just things that I'm mindful of because I've been around it and I care about it.
Exactly, yeah. And
it's my lens.
Exactly, yeah. And that's something that I think just in everything, like disability or age or gender or race or anything of that nature, like we all can only see the world through the lens in which we were born, and it's hard to remember that. And I think that like when we see someone doing something and we're like, how do you not know? And we just have to remember that, oh, you don't know because you
don't know.
Like that is the end of the story.
It's like the weird nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
I did my like senior, I was a sociology major at North Georgia.
Yeah.
graduated from there. And one of my last final papers that I wrote was about people using the word retarded in like a colloquial sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, like some people literally, like after I gave my presentation, they're like, I said it, but I didn't really understand the impact. And it's not even necessarily like a term that doctors use anymore. So like when you're saying it, it is actually just outright hurtful.
Right.
And obviously I didn't write that in my paper, but
Yes.
just like little things like that. And they're like, I just didn't know. And so it's like, how do we inform people about everybody's problems? Or like, how do we even put people in a better place to like keep their mind more open to different people's lenses?
Totally.
How do we educate that way instead of educating maybe to all the little things?
Yes. No.
I don't know what I'm trying to solve here.
World peace.
And we all come together with world peace.
We're gonna hold hands. Let's buy the world a Coke. That was what I was
And I will pause this story because this is something that I love about you. Going back to our friendship, I think Raven and I did go through a time where we didn't like talk as much here or talk as much there.
Yeah.
But it always feels like we've never lost time at all.
Yeah.
But something I appreciate about you so much is that you are like such a big encourager of seeing through other people's lenses. And you would literally listen to like if like anyone wanted to sit down and tell you about their lens, I think you would take the time to listen.
Yes, because
Which is amazing.
Yeah, secretly I'm selfish and I just want to know all the lenses of the world. So I'm like
Try on
collecting
these
them.
glasses, these glasses.
But I just love people's stories and I love hearing them, which is especially why I love what we're doing and stuff, learning more about your story and how you have come to know the world, see the world and stuff like that, because that's something that not only do I love that about other people, like their lenses help me see the world better, but that's something that I love. It's like I love having people that are passionate about other things that surround me because then they inform me about how to be better in that area too, because I don't spend my time around a lot of people with disabilities, and so having people in my life that do, it's just something that I get to be more aware of and more understanding to, and it's shaped me. Like your friendship really with me helped me to like form better relationships with people with disabilities, because had I not, I honestly, like Erica, I seriously remember this story about when we were, I loved how you talked to this little girl and you could see how scared she was of people with disabilities. She was probably about like 7 or 6 and she was an outpost camper, and you sat her down and you were like, so you know how you have to go to the bathroom sometimes, and when you have to go to the bathroom you like dance around, do something, and you were like explaining how stimulation happens for special needs people, and I just loved that. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like I'm gonna use that story when I speak to people about special needs, or if they're scared or don't understand why someone's acting the way they're acting. So yeah, you've been really influential in that way to me.
Wait, thank you. That means so much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if anything, like you and then my friends Hannah and Katie that you know, they both have people with special needs in their lives, and so being around them, I've gotten to understand more just about how to be more inclusive, and that it's very easy to be inclusive once you let yourself be.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so, but it can be, if it's something different, it's definitely like people put up a wall sometimes, and how do we get people to like take that wall down and realize there's nothing scary, that's not a monster, there's no monsters on the other side of, or just not saying that people with special needs aren't monsters, not what I'm saying, just saying that differences seem a bit scary.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no matter what the difference is, whether that be somebody of a different race or a different religion or anything like that, something can seem a bit overwhelming when it's new to you. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I currently work for a company called Dress Up,
Yeah.
and I do a few different things. I have my hands in a few different places, and I'll do a little bit of HR, a little bit of training.
Yeah.
Right now I am filling in a role for Director of Customer Service,
Yeah.
and I get to work with so many different types of people.
Okay.
Like irate people, really happy people, really neutral people.
Neutral people.
But something I always tell my team right now that I have is like everybody just wants to be understood. Like most literally, everyone just wants to be understood, and everyone wants to be on a winning team. So how do we do that for these people? How do we put them on the winning team, and how do we make them feel understood?
Yeah.
And literally, it solves every problem. And you know what? And if you don't understand, tell them you don't understand, and tell them you want to understand. So I guess
Yeah.
the life of customer service can play into actual relationships.
What?
But I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I think that, I guess tying it back into Gwinnett County, I think that they did a fantastic job of like teaching me that from a very young age, even.
Yeah.
I think I think I told you I was a peer leader earlier.
Right.
And I even had the opportunity to not necessarily work with people who had special needs, but in other ways, I remember I would have this long lunch hour and I got to do like academic tutoring. I'm not the brightest crayon in the box. I by no means outshined like half of my graduating class in GPA, but it was like the thing about patience and being able to teach someone and being like, you know what, I don't understand either, but we're going to figure it out. And being able to work with people on any type of level, like in high school, was very, very foundational for me in that way.
Cool. Yeah. Well, to wrap up our time, I want to ask one more thing about just like if you could leave advice for people of Gwinnett or just people, just like things that you've learned and just like a nugget of like something that you've learned that you feel like has been really informative, like what would you share if you had to get on a platform and we're like, okay, here's what I want to tell the world?
Oh gosh, okay. I think I know.
Okay. You have 5 minutes. No,
I think I know. I think that obviously, like, world peace is a ironic answer because it's funny now because everyone said it. But I think if I could get up and I could stand up in front of the whole world and say one thing and one bit of advice, or at least to Gwinnett County, I think I would say like world patience. Yeah. And I don't think that it's necessarily like, oh my gosh, be patient at everything. I think like get excited for the things you want to be excited about, but like have patience in your relationships. I think that is the like, love is so many things, and obviously love makes everything great, but like patience for your coworkers, patience for the people that you're in relationships, patience for the person who just cut you in line at Starbucks, patience for understanding someone who doesn't have the same lens as you, even if you, at the end of the day, you're like, I absolutely will never 100% agree with you. Having patience that maybe not necessarily just because you believe it, that it's right. It like shifts you in a way. It's trying. Oh my gosh, it's so trying. Patience, I think I don't know if it's like the root word or whatever. It's called long suffering. So it's not easy. Yes. It's never going to be easy. It's never going to be the easy way, but. Just accept that. Take it in, it's going to be long suffering. But like really thinking about what it means to show patience in your life. And my pastor growing up used to have this amazing reference and this amazing story that he would tell. And he like got bumped one time. He had a hot cup of coffee and he like spilled on him, and he was like, the first thing that you want to do is be like, yikes, that is hot, I can't believe you push me, and like push him back or something. He's like, but like what flows out of you? Like what kind of coffee are you holding that if you got like tipped, like what would you say? How would you react? And I think that goes into how we're being patient with other people. I think it gives off happier, better human vibes than anything else.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, cool. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Raven.
Yeah.